Hello, it's Ruby, and today is September 1st, which just so happens to be my favourite day of the year. I'm always torn between whether September or October is my favourite month, but either way, this is the beginning of both of them. It's overcast today, which is lovely. Maybe it will rain. I'm hoping it will rain. Today is also the day I'm going to start my personal curriculum for September. I'm looking at Victorian female education and education reform and how women kind of gained access to university education over the course of the 19th century, and I'm going to start that module today. So today's going to be a little bit of a study with me, and I want to show you how I go about actually starting a new module. First though, I'm going to just sit and read. I don't want to spill my coffee as I grab this. I want to sit and read some of Katabasa's because I'm loving this book. I'm not too far, I'm like 150 pages in, and it's one of those books where you don't really want to do anything but read it. I think this is going to be the scent of the season. The first thing I did though was write a to-do list in my academic planner, which was also so exciting because it's the first day of the planner, the 1st of September. One thing that so many of my tutors did at the beginning of a module was like ask us why we chose that module and why we thought the topic was important or significant. It would usually be a question that was asked when we went round, and so I'm going to do a little journal prompt to start and reflect on why I've chosen a module on Victorian female education, and then also why I've chosen a module on Frances Hodgson Burnett. So I'm going to do that first in my notebook that I set up last time. My goodness, this rain. It is officially autumn. What a great way to begin September. On all of my journals. I just had thunder. I didn't see the lightning though. But the clouds above me are definitely storm clouds. They're very dark grey. I've got myself a green tea and I'm going to get started with an actual task. This morning and in the early afternoon I was preparing this article. My plan was to submit it yesterday and then I didn't do that, so I was like, oh, I'm just going to do a quick reread and do it this morning, and then I spent 2 hours going over it again, and I'm going to actually submit it this evening, but I can't look at it anymore. This was my to-do list, as I say, and I'm going to set these tasks as kind of homework tasks almost, so they've got a deadline where I've got to have them submitted and printed today. So the things that I'm going to do right now are, first of all, to write some notes on the education system in Oxford in the 1870s and 1880s and 1890s. I've got to create these notes and then print them out by 5 p.m. Second thing is to start making a timeline of Oxford, and then my kind of task is having to answer a question about 3 key events which happened and which I heard about, just so I've got something which I'm completing like a task. Then my final task that I've got to do by 5 p.m. is to actually send that article off for submission. I quite like to make PowerPoints for taking notes, so I'm making this one just so I can make like a nice aesthetic sheet which is really easy to read. So this is research on Oscar Wilde and his education at Oxford, and there's like a link here which takes me to this, which is an essay that he wrote. This is the research document. I did answer some questions as well on my computer, and I have some slightly more comprehensive notes, but this is something I can consult. It's got like the key information. It's nearly 5, so I need to quickly file this away in my folder. This is the folder where I keep all my research. I had been making that timeline as I was doing the other research, and so I here was just answering those key questions to check my understanding. Also, my dad brought me up some vegetable samosas, which were very, very good. We're back to personal curriculum, and today I'm going to focus on making my timeline. Right now, I'm doing research, but around soul dualism and metempsychosis, which is research related to the novel I'm writing. So this is the 3rd novel research book that I've got through. I've just started a new one, and it's just basically for when I'm researching something random and I like to jot down notes. So I'm going to do that now for a bit. I'm actually working today and I'm leaving in about 25 minutes. So I'm going to try and just tick through these 3 research questions before I go. This research is definitely not related to my personal curriculum. It's far from relevant to female Victorian education. But when I vlogged this day, I was certain that I was going to do some work on my personal curriculum. I was just very mistaken. Brief answers for each of those 3 questions. I didn't really get to the bone of them in the way that I would want, but I can do that when I get back. It's also such a lovely day again. We've had rain for the whole of September so far. I say, even though it's only the 3rd. I just love that September has started with all of this rain. And I mean, it's not raining right now, but it's cloudy, and it was raining. Do you like the rain, Lola? I'm back from work. I also just had a haircut, and I'm going to do a little bit more research because I didn't quite finish. Good morning. I'm going to do some more of my personal curriculum this morning, and in particular I want to write a very short essay. It's not going to be perfect by any means, on the female colleges which opened in Oxford at the end of the 19th century. I just want to do this for writing practice, and I always find that writing something helps to synthesize understanding around that thing. I think the things and the topics that I understand the most are ones that I've written essays about, whether that's for an assessment or recreationally. It's actually for that reason too that I don't do this anymore, but when I was younger I would start every single morning by writing a paragraph in the style of an essay, and it helped to get over the fear of writing essays and kind of helped to avoid procrastination around academic writing. And so if you find yourself daunted by the process of essay writing, that is a very good habit to start. The first thing I need to do though is fill up my ink cartridge. This is something I've also been so excited about. So I bought a Kawako Sport fountain pen this year. It's this beautiful burgundy colour, and when I bought it, it came with a cartridge, but washable blue isn't my favourite ink colour, so I have bought a refillable ink cartridge. These are such a great idea if you've got a fountain pen, because you can fill up your pen with whatever ink colour you want. It's a piston style. It's between Aurora Borealis or Oxblood. Can't decide. Before deciding, I'm going to try the Oxblood one because I haven't actually tried this ink yet. I'm just going to use a dipping pen so I don't have to commit. Oh, that's beautiful. Yes, I'm going to go for Oxblood because I've actually got this ink in another one of my fountain pens at the moment anyway. I think I'm just going to go it's always so messy. Did that work? Yes. I think the red is also a good idea because the pen is red and so it all fits together very nicely. It's more autumnal as well. I looked into the 3 women's colleges which opened at the end of the century, which were Lady Margaret's Hall, Somerville College and St Anne's College, but at the time that it opened it was called Home Students College, which is such a wonderfully practical name. Home Students College is, as the name suggests, for women who are living at home, who don't need university accommodation. So this kind of opened in 1890, but it was very different to kind of other college structures because everyone was living at home. However, then in the 1940s it was changed to St Anne's because not every student was living at home anymore, so it feels ridiculous to call it Home Students College. So basically Lady Margaret's Hall and Somerville College opened out of necessity, so there was increasingly these calls for women to have access to education. So there was the Association for Promoting the Education of Women in Oxford. This society was running lectures for women. Lady Margaret's Hall and Somerville College both are opened as spaces where women can live as they are pursuing their studies. And the thing that I got really distracted looking into, which I just thought was so cool, was who Somerville and Lady Margaret's Hall were named after. So Lady Margaret's Hall was named after Lady Margaret Beaufort, who was a very prominent woman in the 15th century, and she was the mother of King Henry VII, and so is often called the matriarch of the Tudor dynasty. And she founded 2 Cambridge colleges, but then this one, like Lady Margaret's Hall, actually gets her name. Somerville College though was opened because Lady Margaret's Hall would only admit those who swore into the Anglican Church, and Somerville College was more secular, so you didn't have to be Anglican to study there. And Somerville was named after Mary Somerville, who I just went down a massive rabbit hole learning about. I'd heard Mary Somerville's name in passing, but had no idea just how cool a person she was. Like, it's really worth looking into her because she did so much, but she was one of the first female members of the Royal Astronomical Society. She solved a fair number of mathematical problems that had been kind of publicly sent out, and she received a medal for this as well. She also wrote the first ever physical geography textbook, and she wrote a book called Connections, which was a book with her scientific research, and it sold 15,000 copies. She also, and I mention this because this video is essentially like related to the idea of the personal curriculum, but she was also an autodidact, and she taught herself a tremendous amount when she was a teenager. So she taught herself Latin, and then over her summers, which she would spend in Burntisland, which is in Scotland, she learnt algebra and geometry from the books in the library there. She also learnt piano, and she taught herself Greek so that she could read books in their original language. So she taught herself both Latin and Greek. Mary Somerville wrote, I think this was in her memoirs, "I thought it unjust that women should have been given a desire for knowledge if it was wrong to acquire it. I thought it was unjust that women should have been given a desire for knowledge if it was wrong to acquire it," because she kept on coming into people disagreeing with women having access to education. Her first husband, for example, was very against this. Her father was very conservative, yet despite all of this, she became this incredibly important mathematician, scientist. Astronomy was the thing that she ended up loving most, and the work that she did was really important for the eventual discovery of the planet Neptune. So she's so cool. Mary Somerville. Do have a look into her if you don't know about her. I really enjoyed reading about her, and I would quite like to read her autobiography now. And then, just to finish up the study session and kind of finalise this as a topic, I wrote an essay. And I wrote this essay about the othering of women's colleges, using Girton College in Cambridge, which is another women's college, as a comparison point, and thinking about how these colleges were geographically and systemically othered from other Oxbridge colleges. It's not a very nuanced argument at all, but it just helped me to think about this in a little bit more depth. I've got about 600 words of an essay, and then I've got another few hundred of notes and bullet points, which I will convert into paragraphs. I just wanted to say I've just been looking through this excellent book, Higher Education and the Gendering of Space in England and Wales, 1869 to 1909 by Georgia Oman, and that's excellent. I found that very helpful. I want to read the full book though, because I can't access the full book. So So I just printed off that essay to file away in my folder, and that brings us to the end of this week's tasks that I wanted to complete for this module. Just to finish this video, I thought I would give you a book haul because I do have quite a few books related to the personal curriculum. The first one is The Victorian Governess, which I ordered in my last video about like when I was setting up my curriculum. This basically explores the lives of real life governesses and what it was like to be a governess, and it looks at the routines and like gives you case studies of certain ones. I'm really looking forward to this. And I've got a few books about Frances Hodgson Burnett. So the first is this biography. It's the 2004 biography by Gretchen Gersina, and I am very much looking forward to learning about the life of Frances Hodgson Burnett through this. I actually also picked up this biography, which is an earlier biography by Anne Thwaite. This was published in, you know it's old because it cost £3.50 when it first came out. This is from 1974, and I thought it might be interesting to compare the two different biographies and how she was presented in each. And then I also found this. This was about £10. I found it on eBay. It's Little Saint Elizabeth and Other Stories by Frances Hodgson Burnett, and it's this absolutely stunning edition. I've actually got the same edition by F1 and Co. of this book, which is Sarah Crewe, or What Happened at Miss Minchin's. And I'm really looking forward to reading some of her short stories because she did write a number of short stories for periodicals and children's magazines. For example, the St. Nicholas magazine, which is where A Little Princess first appeared as a short story. But yes, those are some of the books that I have bought for this month's personal curriculum. I want to say thank you so much for watching this video, and I hope that you have more than just a productive week.